are joining you again to deep dive and geek out about movies. My name is Devorah Governale.
And I'm Carrie Parker.
And this week we are coming to you with one of our last Christmas films of the holiday season we'll do this year. One of my very personal favorites. I watch it every year, and that is The Family Stone.
Okay, so I have to ask, because hilariously, this tripped my brother up. He was like, of all the movies, The Family Stone. And I was like, I don't ask questions. I just... and my theory was that because you have a lot of siblings, it's relatable, but then also because I know how much your grandma meant to you. Aww. And I think that that's also a little like that matriarchal feeling of just the attachment there, because you're also very matriarchal centric, and I like it. You know what I mean?
You're a very matriarchal centric family for sure. Well, you are spot on. I mean, you know, I've got 4 younger sisters. There's 5 of us. I don't think our dynamics are the same as the Stones family dynamics. That's definitely not the case. But you are seeing the family dynamics. They have a line. We're all we've got. Like, this is what we've got. I also just really love the way that the storytelling unfolds from the beginning of the film. We get our character introductions with each of these family members. And then we get to approximately 1/3 through the film. And at that point, we've established the dynamics of that family. Some are, of course, very lovely and positive, and some are maybe a little more crass and abrasive and challenging, which I can understand that. Mm-hmm. But at that point in the storytelling, we have the information finally given to us as the audience, what is happening with Diane Keaton's character, with the mom. And so you start to understand. You might not have understood the character's choices up until that point, but then it starts to make sense why each one of them is behaving the way they're behaving. And I think for me, that's one of the reasons why I love this film so much, is it so beautifully portrays why we as humans do the things we do. Like, sometimes we look at each other and we're like, why are you doing that? And we either think it's so mean or so dumb or so not good. And I love the way the story unfolds. You understand why is Edmund like jumping into this relationship that everyone else can see is not right for him? You know, why is Rachel McAdams being so mean? Why are they each doing that? And then you realize it's like, yes, they're not in grief mode yet, as in they haven't lost their mom yet, but they are in their early stages of having to process grief, and their behaviors are indicative of how they're each processing that. And I just think that's so beautiful. And I love that by the time we get to the end, we've got this character who seems like, how dare he bring her into the house? But by the end, she actually becomes the pathway to the goal for each of those last 3, because there's, I think, 4 children, and 1 is married. The other 3 are not committed to anybody. She ultimately is the reason why the other 3 children are able to be with their significant other in time for that to be part of the family before she's not with them anymore. And I just think that's so beautiful. That moment with the photograph, I could lose it right now. It's just so beautiful. Mm-hmm. She has no idea how beautiful, like, she's just doing something simple that she thinks is kind, but she has no idea how important that moment is. I actually wound up having a very similar moment to that in my life years after the film came out, when my father passed away. And I found a photo of my sisters and I. I don't remember ever going to this staged 80s photo with my sisters, but there it was with all of us. It was probably right before my parents got divorced. So I did a very similar thing where I had it reprinted and framed, and I gave it to each of my family members, one of the rare families we all got together for Christmas. And even my one sister was like, this is so Family Stone. So I feel a connection to it where I feel like it connects to my life, but also I really appreciate the storytelling and the way that it showcases how we as humans process emotions. And a lot of times we are coming at a situation with good intentions, or trying to make something good happen. And we just need to work on good communication and understanding and patience so that we can understand why we're doing what we're doing. I know it's weird, but I love this movie. I love it.
I think is enjoyable about it, and it just is indicative of how well written it was, is the idea that we're seeing it from one angle. They start us with Dermot Mulroney and Sarah Jessica Parker, and so we think they're the center. We're like, okay, this is their story. A friend said that Sarah Jessica Parker's character is the most unlikable character. That was why he was surprised you liked it, is because of how unlikable Sarah Jessica Parker's character is, which, to be fair, she does it so well. But that's also an interesting part of storytelling. And I had a similar moment where I realized how necessary those characters are, but also just characters who start at that place that genuinely you feel it and you're like, this person is not likable. Like, I don't know what their malfunction is, but no, we're not okay with this. It first happened with Schitt's Creek, because I came into that show and I was just like, everybody loves this show. I feel crazy right now. Like, I don't know what's going on, because these people are the most obnoxious people. And if I didn't love Catherine O'Hara, I don't know if I would have given it that much space and time, but she is so good at committing to the bit, and so the absurdity of it, I was like, okay, I'm giving you this because your mom in so many ways, girl. Beetlejuice, Home Alone, your mom. So we're doing this, and I started to realize, oh, okay, they made them obnoxiously self-entitled so we have somewhere to grow. Because otherwise, it took me realizing that was part of the world build. The world build was the pretentiousness. They had to make it palpable, like tangible. You had to be able to literally touch the pretentious. And they did so well. And Sarah Jessica Parker's character does it without making it so obviously like status related. She just genuinely thinks she's good people. They do a good job where we don't feel an economic discrepancy. We don't feel any of that status concept. But so it's more of just an existential pretentious. The fact that she's so superficial, and they do a very good job. They did it twice, and I was like, you nailed it. They're a couple, and they're like holding each other, and she's just like, look at them in the mirror. And you're just like, it's so obvious, it's laughable, but she had to do it in a way where we had to think she genuinely believed in herself, and man, she nailed it. But then the one where I almost did laugh, where I'm like, now they're making it laughable, is when the ring is stuck on Claire Danes' finger. She's like, oh, and then she goes, is that it? And you're just like, oh, woman, I'm not even there, and I would have smacked you. Like, ooh, is that it? I was like, yep, they did it. There it is. There's we had hope for her for a whole second, and we kind of liked her. And now we're like, nope. We still don't like you. You definitely don't deserve Everett. I don't even really know if you deserve Ben, but I feel like Ben is somehow weirdly prophetic / seemingly difficult stoner brother, which is such a niche. I like Luke Wilson too much. I don't really want him to have her either. But there's such a great dichotomy, a yin-yang, that's why we accept it. We accept that Ben is going to be the thing that Meredith needed, that will balance her out and make her tolerable. And maybe that's okay then. Maybe he's our hero. Yeah. He's taken one for the team, toned down her. He even says it at one point about like how hard she must work to keep everything screwed so tightly, like the lid screwed so tightly. And I was just like, that was the moment. You're not flying your freak flag, which is awesome. But she was hiding it. Like, she was so concerned about what other people thought, which is hilarious because Rachel McAdams says that at one point. Sarah Jessica Parker says, I don't care what you think. And Rachel McAdams just smirks and is like, of course you do, and walks away. And that's why they're like, no, she's not the right person. Because she and Craig T. Nelson, which, by the way, have to shout out to Craig T. Nelson for being the least problematic father figure millennials have. Accepting, inclusive, unconditional, just the best dad. And I think that honestly, their relationship, Diane Keaton and Craig T. Nelson, is such a healthy portrayal and expression of marriage that's why I'm like, shout out to Coach for being dad for the rest of us. Well,
the way he tries to carry the weight, like he knows their time is limited. He knows this is likely their last Christmas all together. He wants so much to try to make it good for her, make it good for the children. And I love Luke Wilson in this role. It's so good. What I love is that for older brother, he sees Meredith and he sees what he needs, even though he's doing it but the wrong way. He needs. But when Luke Wilson looks at Meredith, he sees what she needs. And that's what makes them right together. I love there's that moment pretty soon after Claire Danes has arrived at the Stone household. And you see sisters both walk off. And then you have the two brothers and they just kind of look at each other and then they look away. You're seeing the foreshadowing that we as an audience were like, okay, they need to just trade and everything will be okay. But they, as the characters, need to go through the actual journey to actually arrive at that place. I love this movie. I just love this movie so much.
Yes. I find it amazing how it's almost quasi-Shakespearean. The same thing with Midsummer Night's Dream, where we have the two couples who end up stuck in this journey through the woods. And then they end up completely couple swapping, pretty much. The great part is the same thing as the Family Stone, where it's not just about physical attraction. It's not just about who looks better together. It's about the growth and the actual identity. So it's the role we play versus who we are. And that's what Everett and Meredith are too focused on, is we're trying to complete a picture of success, a picture of happiness. And that's why her looking at the reflection in the mirror, look at them, is so essential to the underlying story and message, repeated with the gift of the picture and the photo that encapsulates who Diane Keaton's character is in the family. The characters themselves, as you were saying, the storytelling is so good because each and every character, we could have a whole entire individual movie about just their version of this Christmas or their life in general, and it would be a complete story. That's how we have well-written characters, is the fact that we almost want to see the Claire Danes version of this story. Let's see the girl who gets some panicked call from her stressed out, tightly wound sister who's at her boyfriend's house with, large family, et cetera, after we've just been traveling abroad doing like missionary style work and humanitarian work and our humanitarian focused versus our capitalist sister, and the fixation on the presentation with that capitalist picture, that idea of what have I been sold to believe is right. So they have good jobs, they're wearing the right clothes, her hair is perfect and immaculate, the picture is perfect. And the missteps are so pronounced, they're so well done, they're so unquestionable, right? I mean, we saw the moment where Rachel McAdams sets her up to fail and literally, like, did you just point at him? What's the title of the movie, right? Like, she sets her up. We saw that coming. We get it. She's razzing or giving a hard time. Yeah, that Sarah Jessica Parker's character is taking it so personally. The fact that she thinks they're all focusing that much on her to make her be the bad guy or look bad is very narcissistic. It's so delusion of grandeur. I am so threatening and important to them that they're literally trying to push me out and ruin my Christmas.
What I really love, we have that moment with her, like you said, she's trying to hold the boundaries. She's very aware of the reality of this space and time for her. And he asked for the ring, and multiple times she's like, nope, sorry, kiddo, nope. But what I really love is when we get to the moment where she finally says, it's your choice. It's going to actually align more with human behavior. You know, when people are told they can't do something, it oftentimes results in just wanting to do that more. It's just what we do as humans. So she's been saying no throughout the whole film. When she finally gets that point of, this is your choice, that's when he's able to process where he needs to be, where she says, this is your life. This is your choice. This is your ring. I'm giving you my blessing to just do what you need to do. And I think that that's another reason why I love this film is I think when you have family members or found family or really close friends, we do know each other better than a lot of other people in their world. And we do want what's best for those people because we love them. And, you know, you've got the brother who's like, don't do it. Don't marry her when they go to look for another ring, when the mom first says no about the family stone. You know, they're all trying to tell him what to do because they love him and they see what at least they think he needs and they want to tell him. But in the end, it has to just be his choice. And that's true for all of us. We have to feel free to make the choices that we need to make so that we can have happiness. And it's hard to sit by when you see a loved one making a choice that's counterintuitive to it and feel helpless or feel like you want to do something or say something. But in the end, we have to all be free to make the choices for ourselves. And I also love that in that moment, not only does she finally say, this is your choice, but they finally have open dialogue. It's been this unspoken thing the whole film. So they're all processing in their way and they're not very good, positive, healthy ways. When she gives him that freedom, she also says, marrying her is not going to stop me from passing away. And that open dialogue finally is able to happen. And there's going to be no way that he can move forward in any of it until they can finally be open and honest. And I know that that's a really hard and scary thing for a lot of us. Sometimes you try to open that dialogue and the other person's not in a place to reciprocate and engage in that. And that, I think, is the hardest thing about life. We get to see in sitcoms and movies, we get to see the best version of that a lot of times where you have a scary conversation and you're able to see the two characters engage in that equally and get to a resolution and get to where they need to be. And we don't always have that luxury in life. Sometimes we're in different places on our journey and we may need to open that dialogue, but one of the two people is just not able to engage yet. And that can be really hard. But I do appreciate that we get to see that moment in this film.
And it's so true and real because I feel like Everett is the representation of the most denial, like out of all of the denial. And he is just completely pre-contemplative. He's not even willing to look at it. It's not a problem. He's focused so hard on creating this perfect image that he thinks if he does that,
it's a solution.
Mom's not sick. That's not happening. It's not real. And so it's such denial. And what's so funny is that is why they match in the beginning. That's why Everett and Meredith match, is because they're so lacking in self-awareness because they're denying it, because they're trying to not look at this completely other situation. And so the fact that Sarah Jessica Parker's character wants approval and acceptance so hard that she thinks she's doing all the right things because she's wearing the right clothes and she took her to the best restaurants she knows of, right? And so all of these standards, the standard was other people's opinion of best, not her opinion of best. And that's where Ben comes in. I love that we see Luke in these like randomly, but the fact that he often in rom-coms is playing the feet on the ground, but not taking himself too seriously, right? Like every time we see him, he is the rock, right? That this person is kind of floating up here and he's just sitting down here hanging out watching, like, all right, I'll be here, you know, like, cool. All right. You know, and then they do come down for a landing and he's there and they're just like, oh, you've been here the whole time. And he's like, yep, was right in front of you the whole time. And I love the storytelling. I love that we see the Claire Danes, Dermot Mulroney moment from Craig T. Nelson and the brothers' viewpoint. And they're in the car and they're looking, and then the bus comes and they're like, oh.
Classic.
Even the audience going, oh.
I love it. I love that moment so much where they're like, because again, like they love their brother / son. They love him. Right. They know that this is the best thing for him, but it has to be her choice, has to be his choice. Yes. And all they can do is sit in the car and wait. The bus gets in the way and they see what's happening. Oh, it's such a great, like, edge of your seat for that moment, which is so perfect for filmmaking. I also love filmmaking wise that they take the middle of the film, like you're talking about. You've got Ben, you've got, Luke Wilson's character. He can kind of already see. He sees what she needs. And one of the first things that really gets the family kind of a picture of her is when they say, how did you guys meet? The way, filmmaking wise, the way they do that whole, I'm going to call it a montage, even though there's dialogue, because it just cuts from scene to scene to scene, where clearly they're of course in a task to go pick up pizza so they can have an easy family dinner the first night everyone's all together. And you're being cut from moment to moment of this task, and she's talking the whole time. And I connect with the character in that moment where someone asked me, how are you doing? And I do the not American thing of just going on and on and on and on and on. You've had to put up with decades of that for me. So you really see, and it ties into what you were saying earlier about just like, she has this picture. She's trying to verbally paint this picture for them. But then when we get to the next section and the couples separate and you get to have all of the beauty of Ben's character that you just described going off, the scene where he describes the dream he has of her. At first you assume it's maybe like a dirty or a naughty dream, but then it turns out to be so like cerebral and beautiful and symbolic, where she's a little girl, she's shoveling snow and he's the snow. You've got all the imagery that he verbally paints for her and like the beauty of that. And I think that might be for her character, maybe the first time she's realizing someone else sees her for real, and possibly even giving her a pathway to be able to see herself more realistically. And then at the same time, we've got the whole context of this whole story from Meredith's perspective. Now we get to see her sister talking about the totem pole and the hole in the guy's heart and that whole tale that she shares with Everett. And then he explains that that's what he feels. He feels this hole inside of him because this very important adventure, this very important trip that he had gone to do for himself, that was a very important, fulfilling experience for him, he essentially got robbed of through the process of meeting her. And I'm sure subconsciously and consciously doing the like, oh, I'm going to bypass what I actually need so I can take this girl home eventually to mom. We realized through this conversation that this is what has happened. And all that's really happened is it's left a hole in him, just like this man that she describes to him. So I love, from a storytelling stance, the way that they do that whole middle section. I just think it's filled with so much power. And I think that we can reflect ourselves in that, where we can try to look at the things, what have we been avoiding? What are we not being honest or accountable with ourselves? What do I need to course correct or adjust so that I'm doing right by myself and by my loved ones?
They do a good job being inclusive, representing a lot of different concepts. They have multicultural aspects tied into it. They've got the family dynamic. They have some of the like elder sibling, youngest sibling kind of personalities, very Adlerian. There's reality to these concepts that psychologists have come up with about how we fit into certain roles or concepts within our own family structure, especially dependent on your birth order, right? And how it's very true. And it's not anything about the child themselves, but it's just the reality of like, you're my first. So this is we're both doing this together. It's an adventure. We'll see how it goes. And it's so funny because my mom said my daughter is me in the fact that if she had had me first, I would have been an only child. And I'm like, yes, if I had had my daughter first, she'd be an only child because there'd be no way I'd have the sanity to have gotten pregnant again and
Love
like
that girl.
wanted that again, because like, dear God, that baby girl has been in charge since the second she came out. So
That's real.
it's so hilarious. He's a baby. I was the baby. We both have a brother that's older than us. The idea of him bringing a girlfriend home, they are all going to be a little territorial because this is their very, like Diane Keaton says, we're all we got. So the idea of you can come in, you can enter, this is not a one-person show. So the irony that that's exactly why Sarah Jessica Parker was so confused as to why they don't, it's like, woman, we don't have a main character. We're all main characters. So the idea that you're coming in here and that's your energy is we wish we didn't have to pay attention to you. That's actually we couldn't care less. That's the bigger problem.
We have to Christmas.
Yes.
Both his parents, but like you said, especially Craig T. Nelson, they are showcasing and modeling accountability so well. You know, that, like you said, there's things happening in his home that aren't necessarily okay, but he still leaves the comfort of his home, goes to the inn, knocks on the door, and says, I really need to apologize. I raised my voice. There was a very good reason. He takes accountability, and the mom, well, here and there. And they are modeling, well, they're modeling just like what the complexities of family dynamics are, that you love each other, you're each an individual, but you're also part of a unit, and you're all just trying to deal with your own thing, but you're also dealing with something that is a group thing. It's complex, you know, it's just complex, and we're all selfish beings to a certain extent, and we're all learning how to be less so. And so great. I love it so much.
Almost also very Tennessee Williams in the idea that a lot of times Williams' work is family oriented and it shows those dynamics, but also once again the characters are very individually well written and developed so that they are full characters. Nobody's just there as filler. Nobody's there to like fill in the set or create the picture and image, and that's what's real. You know what I mean? The idea that everybody has something, we all do fill a role. God bless Dermot Mulroney, because when she told him, I'm sick and you getting married won't fix it. You can't fix it this time. And he broke down crying. Girl, I am the ugliest crier, and I was crying so hard for the full entire length of that movie because of the reality that what it's actually linking to is our very intrinsic fear of losing our mother.
Yeah. And I have people in my life that have had that experience, and it's just something that is so deep, and it, at least in those moments, it's so permanent. And yeah, you know, and you and I were both entering that chapter of our life that, gosh, when we met each other, it felt like it was eons away, but we're entering it now where our moms are grandmas, and you become aware that it's getting closer and closer. And I think that's another reason I appreciate this film, is that it reminds me, like, call your mom, you know? She, like, accept that invitation. Yes, you are at your chapter of your life that's very valid, where you're very busy, but say yes to the lunch invite. Say yes to going to grab ice cream. Say yes to taking her to the ballet, or, you know, like Odyssey. I'm on a countdown right now. I'm taking my mom to the Odyssey because she's talked about that book my whole life, read it when she was a little girl. Like, you know, take advantage of the time that you have, and the reminder that life is very fleeting, and, you know, we need to like be mindful and live in those moments, and not take for granted that each moment is very important. And
she's not right for you because you would have already figured this out if you weren't trying so hard to convince us she was the girl that's right for you. And so it is a very big message because that's also 100% avoidance. People get that hard focused on a thing or a task, it's because they're avoiding something else. And they're avoiding something because it's gonna hurt. And it's the most natural experience as a human being to avoid pain. No one wants pain. That's why pain feels the way it does, so that we don't repeat those things over and over again. It is a lesson. Pain is to teach us. And so he's avoiding so hard, thinking, especially if he's the oldest, that someday when the parents aren't there, both of them, it's going to be him. He's going to be the person that everyone goes to, which is also why the stone was about trust as much as it was about his identity and her knowing him better than he knew him. It was twofold, but the idea that, as you said, when she said it's yours, it's always been his. It was his birthright, which is essentially what it symbolizes, and that's her point, is it was always yours. We're not giving it to someone else. I'm just not giving it to her. You know what I mean? Like,
she's like, I know that something's going to happen after I'm gone. You guys aren't going to be together, and I can't guarantee that the stone's going to come back to the family if that's how it plays out, which is how she deeply believes it's going to.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, she's trying to like hang on to that last little moment that she could do anything about it, but ultimately she realizes I have to let go. I have to let him make the choice.
She has to watch the babies make their choices and deal with the consequences of those choices, which is so hard to watch, especially when you work really, really hard making sure they don't die for the first 18 years of their lives. Right? But man, watching them do some other silly things later, you're just like, why? Okay.
That line from Grey's Anatomy. Take care of yourself. I worked really hard making you from scratch.
Yes, 100%. And I mean, she's so attached to her kids, and it's so cute. And I love the attachment is all secure. And you know, they are a little sloppy. At the one point after Craig T. Nelson has to explain that Sarah Jessica Parker had crossed the line we're not coming back from, and we're not talking about it, and we're done. But the fact that Diane Keaton takes the moment to say, I love you more than any other asshole at this table, right? The idea that she's able to say asshole and none of us thinks that she's mad. The reason why we're okay with Sarah Jessica Parker's character and Luke Wilson's is because he literally represents safety. He is her safety, to the point where she finally feels like it's okay for me to let go. It's okay for me to be me. And the fact that we see her open up, we see her evolve. And so what that is that's the answer to her avoidance. So she was holding everything together for so long because she was afraid no one was going to love her, no one was going to like her as her. So she was putting on the presentation, she was playing the role, the character, the type, but that type just wasn't working. And he saw it and he called her on it. And that's when her character opens up. We still struggle with her a little after that because she's still not ready to really let go of that image, which is when we see her be mad at Ben, right? That's when she becomes the regressive, stupid version of herself again.
She just keeps tugging the belt on her coat. I love that character choice where she just keeps tightening that belt.
Yes. And then she's literally tightening her grip and her control over things. Yeah. And that's also what it is. It's a little OCD. But needing that power and that control, and she's trying to hold on to it so tightly. And then Ben is the antithesis to that. He is the opposite that balances her out. But he represents safety, which as a bigger picture is what a relationship should be. The fact that he's finally found someone that balances out his chill to the point where it was almost like people were annoyed by how chill he was. Cool.
Yeah, his mom is like, please no pot this Christmas. Can we please just like this Christmas? Can we please not? Can we please not?
Right. Well, I don't know, but yeah, maybe she just wants him to actually be more alert and aware and present, which is fair.
Yep.
It's her last one, so she's like,
and I want a pregnant sister and a kid in the house, so being mindful and cognizant of that. I actually what I love about your imagery of safety. So as a costumer, one thing that has always kind of bothered me just a little bit, character-wise, or at least like dramaturg-wise, is that we're getting very close to the end of the film, and Meredith's character has been in the same pink wrap blouse. At that point, we're getting close to 48 hours because we see her in the black vest. She wears this costume to Christmas Eve dinner. Then, when she crashes the car in their yard, Luke Wilson takes her to the bar. So then we shed a layer, the vest goes. So we're getting that visual of, okay, we're letting go, we're loosening up. She's drinking some beers, letting loose a little bit. She starts dancing. But the next morning when they have it's a really great, like, tonal shift. You have the comedy moment where it got really intense in the living room, and then she spills the food all over herself. By the time we get to the end of the movie, she's still in that shirt, and it's like all dried egg, and it's so nasty. And all I can think from the lighting design is that it's clearly she has stayed in that shirt messy all day. I'm like, she would have taken that off. She would have at least changed shirts, if not very thoroughly showered. But I love the visual storytelling that gives us, because it's telling us that she's with a character who accepts her for all of her mess and all of her everything. And there's been enough going on that she can finally handle, not being so buttoned up, not being so tight. I really appreciate those little subtle visual storytelling cues that help really communicate what you're talking about with the characters and where they wind up by the end of the film. Thank you so much for joining us yet again. We love to be able to get together and talk movies and discuss the way that the storytelling medium can really help us out in our lives. And as we get to the end of 2025 and we're wrapping up the holiday season and we're gearing up for a brand new year and just lots of brand new adventures for all of us, we're so grateful for this opportunity to chat with each other and chat with you and continue to dive into these amazing films with you.
Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next time.